So even the modern scientists, they are not using anything else than what the traditional physicians have been used for the last few thousand years. They're using their sense organs. They only forgot about it. They forgot about the fact that actually, even in modern science, they have to use their abilities, their thinking abilities, their sense organs. So Ayurveda takes a unique look at the workings of how a diagnosis is done, and how at all, or as a matter of principle, we can work ourselves through cognition, and how we are able to use what we are finding with our sense organs. So, although it doesn't look like it on the surface, science or research is a very sensual thing. And for real passionate researchers, it has always been, and it should be like that. But what instruments are at our disposal? We have at our disposal to recognize what the world around us has to offer. We have the possibility of Nyaya, the philosophical system of Nyaya, and that means nothing else but how I can obtain knowledge. How to obtain knowledge? Yep, get dangerous. How to obtain knowledge? So, it's getting a little dangerous. And if we take the help of this wonderful philosophical system of Nyaya, it immediately shows us, in classical Nyaya, there are 4 tools of how to obtain knowledge. When you read Charaka Samhita, you will find 5 tools. So that gives another example of how creative Ayurvedic physicians always were in the past, and I think we should take that tradition, because Charaka has taken a classical philosophical system and has even changed it to the practical use in Ayurvedic medicine. So in Nyaya we have the possibilities of what our sense organs perceive, means what the sense organs directly can perceive. That is the first point of how to obtain knowledge. The second would be, if I take what my senses perceive, because just taking my sense organs, that means what I hear, what I smell, or what I taste. For example, in Madhya Pradesh, the home state of Dr. Gupta, there are some Gandha Vaidyas. Gandha, Sugandha, maybe you have purchased once a incense stick where written Sugandha. Sugandha means a pleasant smell, Dugandha means an unpleasant smell. So these Vaidyas are expert just by the smell to make a diagnosis. If some person in the family gets sick, one takes a piece of cloth that the sick person has been wearing, and one brings it to the Gandha Vaidya. So one of my professors, he was appointed by the government to check out whether what these Gandha Vaidyas were doing is proper in the light of modern science. So there was a team of Ayurvedic doctors and allopathic doctors who traveled to Madhya Pradesh to a Gandha Vaidya. And they controlled, or they made a check on all the diagnosis that this Gandha Vaidya made. And to the surprise of everybody, in 80% of the cases, the diagnosis was correct, just on the perception of smell. Or today, we had just had a lecture before on pulse diagnosis. And what is that? I take the sense of touch, and with the sense of touch, I try to read the quality, the quantity, and other criteria of the pulse. So the sense organs, they are the most wonderful, exact instruments. For example, your taste. There is now in the Adlon Hotel in Berlin a sommelier for mineral water. In his bar, he has 190 types of different mineral waters. Why? Because everybody of you experiences, they like Evian, or they like Perrier, or they like Volvic, or they like this mineral water from this area or that area. That means if I ask you what is the taste of water, then you will say, has no taste. But on the other hand, everybody of us experiences that we can differentiate at least 200 types of water. So the sense is very acute. Of course, this is not enough what we perceive from the senses for medical science. That's where the second point comes in, anumana. I make a conclusion. Where there is smoke, there will be fire. Or I use the comparison. The pulse jumps like a frog, or it moves like a snake. That means I take in now abstraction. And the most important point is the number 4 of Nyaya system. That means the medical knowledge, pathology. So for that, we have to study the classical texts on pathology. For that, we have to study modern texts on pathology. For that, we have to work over our own experience. And then I can place a certain symptom in a specific category of a disease. And then Charaka goes and says there's a number 5, and the number 5 of Nyaya in Ayurveda is an amalgam, means a conclusion of all the 4 other systems into a 5th. So this is one way to look at. Everybody looks. The modern scientist operates with Nyaya. A small child operates with Nyaya. If you play with a 4-month-old child with a little ball, and you let the ball disappear behind the paravent, the little child will turn the head because it knows the ball in movement will appear on the other side of the paravent, even though a short time it doesn't see it. That is Nyaya. We can say the babies are perfect Nyaya philosophers. All that counts is what my senses are perceiving. Then this is how knowledge is achieved. But then what can be perceived? For that we have Vaisheshika, another philosophical system, Vaisheshika. And that is what can be perceived. This is how to perceive, and the other one, what can be perceived. Even that, the classical philosophers, that is the beauty of Indian systems of philosophy, that for everything there is a philosophy. So what can be perceived? We can perceive substance, that is dravya. We can perceive the non-existence of, or the absence of dravya. We can perceive action, karma. We can perceive differentiation. We can perceive similarities. We can perceive unique features of a particular substance that we are studying. So this is the second point that we are using in our day-to-day diagnosis. We are using our senses, and you don't have to be shy of that as a therapist or as a doctor of natural system of medicine, because as I said, even the modern scientists are also working with the same ingredients. Everybody works with the same ingredients. So then the third one is, and that is, of course, from what point of view I'm looking at the world. So in the modern Western world, we believe that science is something neutral, is something that is valid for all. In India, in China, in African countries, we don't believe that. We believe there are different types that we call knowledge systems. That means, or different types of paradigma. Because science, at the very best, has always been and always will be tinted by the present day social and cultural beliefs. One day somebody receives a Nobel laureate for something like Mr. Koch and Mr. Pasteur for a theory that 20 years later proved ridiculous. That is another point that will happen. So science is always tinted, and that's why amongst intellectuals in India and other southern and eastern countries, they have the impression, or they sometimes feel, that science is abused as a way of cultural imperialism, because it is imposed on us, and it's imposed on India. Like, it's imposed on us that in Ayurveda we must bring clinical results. But who pays the clinical results? And what is the value of the clinical results if we know that a study in America has shown that that out of 25 clinical researches, 17 have been manipulated? So what is the objective and where the funds come for research? So we have different ways of how to look at the world as such, and one important paradigma, especially when we talk of the relationship body, sense organs, soul, then we cannot go around a wonderful philosophical system that is called Sankhya. Ayurveda has heavily borrowed from this system. And Sankhya system, basically we know two systems of Sankhya. A Sankhya without Purusha as the ultimate 25th part, or with it, so 24 or 25 parts of the material nature. Here we have, if we talk of spirituality, or if we talk on what is the difference between matter and spirit, we have to have some kind of a model to explain it. We cannot just go into the day and tell the people, yeah, we do something spiritual. I mean, we must explain what is supposed to be spiritual and what is matter. Hence, Ayurveda has made use of Sankhya Yoga because it gives this beautiful differentiation between Prakriti and between Purusha, matter, antimatter, and it brings in the concept of the Triguna. Without the Triguna, Ayurveda, or the world as such, the position of the living entity, cannot be explained. And it is not so far removed from the philosophies that we know in Europe. Because since time immemorial, since the very first day we had great thinkers in Europe, they've been using the system of Hermetics. And Hermetics is very close to the system of Sankhya. And here, the Sankhya system, we must come to clearly differentiate what is Purusha, what is Prakriti. Many times a mistake is done that people think Purusha, Prakriti is something like yin and yang in the Chinese system. It is not so. Because duality is only there in Prakriti, in Purusha, in the antimatter, in the pure spiritual energy. We don't have that differentiation. So, therefore, we must consider studying Sankhya philosophy. And lastly, when it comes to diagnostic, when it comes to help the people, everybody who comes to us as a doctor does not just have a pain in the knee, but has a deeper underlying problem. And the problem is, why did I get sick? And the expression I hear every day in my practice is, I never had anything before. Why my knee is paining now? Why not my wife has it or my neighbor has it? Why I have the knee that is paining me? With the idea of why do I get sick? Why do I get old? Why there is a limit or an end to human life? That all comes in. And as a holistic physician, I cannot ignore that point of view, and I cannot say, please go somewhere else. That will be explained by somebody else. But we have the cream of all Vedic philosophy, which is Vedanta, which I recommend that we should all consider studying it. It will be a great help for all our patients, and